Welcome, Rebecca. Please introduce yourself. Which position are you running for?
Hello, I am Rebecca Janelli. I am a 40-year resident of Glendale Heights. I'm a proud mom of 3, and I'm a dedicated advocate for our community. I'm running for village president because I saw a need that really grew out of my experiences understanding how organizations work, how people can collaborate. In my 20 years of healthcare leadership, I saw a way to really examine how patients are kept at the center of a process, right? So if we have teams and doctors, nurses, and workflows that are functioning to support that patient, we need to remember the needs of that patient at all times. After and while learning all that, I had the opportunity to run for the Board of Education for Marquardt District 15. I was elected 4 years ago and then appointed to president 2 years ago. And in those 4 years, these past 4 years, I've seen how to keep a student at the center, how an organization like a school district can function while keeping the needs of that child in the center of every decision. After learning all about those workflows, right? How to bring change, how to improve processes, how to lead large teams. I saw some of the dysfunction that was happening in the village of Glendale Heights. From a leadership perspective, I knew that what I had learned and experienced between healthcare and education, there was this beautiful intersection where I could take these skills and these lessons and bring them to help more people in my community, not just the teachers and the students and the families, but everybody, all of the working families, all of the seniors, bring what I had learned and apply it to a larger group of people. And that's why I'm running, because I know that this community deserves leadership that has that mindset of keeping them at the center of every decision.
What's your mission for Glendale Heights?
So I'm excited about sharing my mission and vision for Glendale Heights. As village president, I really see us having more efficient workflows, reducing waste in the departments, identifying opportunities to make the systems, but the experience more accessible and less costly to our residents. So for example, a great way that we could quickly come in and bring efficiencies would be in our community development department. There's a lot of challenges right now with permits, fees. I know a lot of our residents and community members have been impacted by their experiences within that department. So I'd like to come in and just truly understand current state, understand where we could bring efficiencies, make improvements to our website to bring that to a more modern experience for our residents, and really just examine the permitting requirements as well as the current fee structure. Right now, our residents pay higher cost for fees related to permits than our neighboring communities. However, our community has less affluence and wealth than those, so it really doesn't translate well to being in touch with what the reality for our community members are. So that one right away is an example of how removing redundancies and eliminating waste could have a quick and positive impact on our residents. The other mission and vision that I really tie closely to and that I'm excited about is examining where our identity has become impacted by the leadership, by the decision making, and just a lack of unity in terms of how our village, how our businesses, how our community members, how our children are perceived. So really, this is a chance for us with new leadership and fresh voices to establish what we want to be known as, what our identity truly is, which is hardworking people, a community that cares deeply and is dedicated to each other. I'd like to add more about my mission and vision as it relates to accountability and transparency. In my current role as board president, we wanted to make sure that our residents, our community members, were fully aware of how the board members participate in meetings, trainings, and professional development. So we developed a tool that's currently on the district website where you could see board member participation. Do I show up for the meetings? Do I show up for training and education? Do I take my role seriously? I pushed for that to become a reality, and it's there today for all of our residents to see who's attending these meetings on their behalf. It's important that if you vote for me, that I show up and do the work for you. So currently today, that is available for all of our residents on the district website. To take that a step further, I see that becoming part of my mission at the village as village president. So all board members will be attending meetings and making sure that the community sees who attends which meetings. Do they have full participation? Do they pursue professional development? If they vote for me, I should be fulfilling those requirements. I think the next step is also taking a look at current practices for accountability within the village. So if we have evaluations for everything from our administrators to our frontline team who are interfacing with residents, we should be able to make sure that they're getting evaluated appropriately annually, and that those evaluations reflect the needs of the community, right? It comes back to keeping that resident and that community member at the center, not necessarily keeping the needs of that one employee or that one department at the center. That should evolve and grow around the resident. So if we have challenges, as is normal in any organization, right? We're going to have people who need help being managed up or coached up, giving them extra training, giving them extra support, understanding their barrier to helping that resident in an efficient way. Ultimately, this is where accountability and transparency is key, because without that, what you have is team members being able to kind of move in their role without really growing and evolving to meet the needs of that resident. And that's no longer going to be the way that we work, because we deserve, as a community, we deserve staff, administration that supports our needs, not just the needs of the staff. I know currently there's a lot of staff that do excellent work. They're there for all of our community members, and we want to make sure that those staff members get the support and need the support that they need and deserve, while also identifying those that need extra training, need extra evaluation. They deserve support too, and we're going to make sure that they have it.
Being part of corporate world, how do you value and relate to blue-collar people?
So I know that work is the foundation of Glendale Heights. Most of our families work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet, just to provide for their families and to pay for their bills. I am not ashamed to say that I came from a working family, from a blue-collar family. I'm not ashamed of the work ethic that it taught me. I'm proud to say that labor raised me, and that labor is raising my family, my own children. If it weren't for labor, access to diapers, access to food, access to health insurance would have been very hard for my family. I'm very proud of that work ethic. I'm also proud to say that I didn't have things handed to me. I didn't have a get out of jail free card, or I didn't have a golden ticket. I paid for my education. I'm paying for our family's education because that was important to me as a woman, to continue my education and to grow. I've been in healthcare for 20 years, and in many of those years, even till today, I'm patient facing. I work with patients every day. I'm not in an ivory tower just reading reports and giving directives. Every day I work with people on purpose. I choose that because it helps me stay connected to their reality. When I know what our families are experiencing, when I know what patients are experiencing, students and teachers, I'm better equipped as a leader to supply the needs that they have, to give them the resources, the access to the tools they need to do the best job that they can to take care of each other. So for me, the question between white collar and blue collar really comes down to, where do I utilize what I've learned from each to help as many people as I can? One of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. We do the best we can with what we know, and when we know better, we do better. Ultimately, that is how I've lived my life, and I'm very proud to say that I've come from blue collar and that I'm still in a blue collar family. That's the backbone and the heart of who I am.
Do you intend to continue serving as village president while also holding a position on the school board?
So my term for school board is up this April. I'll be completing my 4 years of my elected position. Once that's over, hopefully I'm elected to be the village president. I'll be able to transition easily into that role. But no, to answer the question, my role with school board is over this April.
Do any of your family members currently hold positions in local government or affiliated offices? If so, who are they and what roles do they occupy?
The only relative that I have within the village is my husband. He's been an employee for over 20 years. He's currently the foreman of the street department, but he's worked his way up from cutting grass with the parks department to being on the roads, doing infrastructure, working in the water department. He's had a lot of different roles as a laborer and as a machine operator. And he's very proud, and we're all very proud of the work that he's done to get where he is. The issue of nepotism has been a problem in Glendale Heights for decades. And we've seen how that plays out, and we know that it's something that needs to be addressed. And when it comes to any potential conflict of interest between myself and my husband's role, I would be starting by being very transparent about what role that I might or should or shouldn't have in any decision making for that department, for their budget, for their hiring, for their project plans. That has to be first and foremost for all of the community to know that there's no conflict of interest there. If something were to come up, again, I would be very transparent and excuse myself from decision making as it relates to that individual employee, anything related to his evaluation, his increases. Right now, a lot of that is governed by a contract with the union, but there is obviously space where leadership makes decisions about their team. That is where I would take a step back and not have any influence there, because that's what our community deserves, is to know that I have a relation within the village and that these two spheres of influence are separate, that I don't have any impact on the outcome of his work, and he doesn't have an impact on the outcome of mine.
There have been claims that you acted in a racially discriminatory manner when terminating an administrative employee, and that situation was handled with lack of respect. How do you respond to these allegations, and what steps you have taken to address the community concerns about this incident?
Yeah, I want to start by reinforcing, as the current president of the Board of Education, I'm under an oath of office. I'm also under a code of conduct. And those two important factors mean that I am responsible for protecting the privacy of our staff, our teachers, our students, and our families. That's the paramount objective always, is to protect the children, the families, staff, and teachers. With that being said, I want to share that investigations related to behaviors and practices happen every day within school districts, within all organizations, healthcare. And that's important that we do that because everyone has a right to have their story heard. So investigations within my own school district happen in a very methodical way. So if there is ever a parent who's concerned about how a teacher is behaving around their child, if there's ever a staff member who has concerns, or a community member, we have a very methodical way of addressing that. Between the legal team of the district and the human resources department, they'll create that investigation, that assessment. That's all done with a privacy barrier around it. What I mean by that is if a person is being accused of something, the board is kept informed that there's an investigation happening, but we are not told the name, the gender, the race, the ethnicity, the language they speak, or even which school that it might be happening at, and that's done to protect the privacy. The last thing that we want is to have someone to be accused of something, have it not to be true, and their reputation tarnished because too much details came out too soon. What I can also share with you is that there is a process for all team members, teachers, students, and parents to follow. So if there is a concern and the board makes a decision after that investigation is complete, it all comes before the board, a 7-person board, to make a decision. It's not a decision that's made by the superintendent. It's not a decision that's made by the human resources department. All facts are provided to a board. The board makes a decision. From there, all of those participants have the right to have their voices heard. They are allowed to have a hearing with the board, and they can even have that decision by the board appealed. That goes through the state of Illinois workflow from there. It would go up to the regional board of education and through the state. So what I can tell you is when the board makes a decision, race, gender, ethnicity, language is not even at play until they learn at the very end the true identity of the person, if you will. And so for anyone who's had a chance to come before the board, we as a practice fully hear their story, their truth, and then together with the investigative outcomes, make a decision that's always keeping the students at the center of every choice.
Approximately a year ago, a student at Glenside Middle School had her hijab forcibly removed. Many parents felt the school's response lacked accountability and failed to support affected communities. As a leader, what did you do in response to this incident, and what measures have you implemented to ensure the safety and dignity of the students who wear religious attire, whether Muslim, Jewish, Sikh, or any others?
That was devastating to witness it. That was a sad day in our community, and as a parent, I was gutted to see that child have that experience. Though it didn't happen in my district, that next board meeting that we had, I did make a statement that we do not condone violence towards our students or violence in any capacity. And furthermore, I tasked our administrative team, starting with our superintendent and the administrators of each building, to conduct a safety walk. What I understood from Queen Bee 16 was that this particular hallway was maybe a blind spot. Maybe there was or wasn't a teacher who was assigned to that. Maybe there was or wasn't a lens to keeping an eye on the children. What I understand, and of course I understand it, like the rest of us, third hand, is that it might have been a blind spot. When this came out, I tasked our administrative team with doing a safety walk and finding our blind spots. So each building was required, and their leadership did conduct a safety walk to understand when are the children out walking to the gym, walking to recess, walking to the lunchroom, when they're not contained in the classroom and where we know that they have eyes on them. Where are these free zones, these flex zones, the bathrooms, the cafeteria? Identify each zone, identify the safety parameters. Who's got eyes? Who's assigned to that hallway, to that cafeteria, to the recess, to the park at all times. Let's put it together in a safety plan document and let's get that circulated and socialized so that we know, okay, if I'm responsible for this hallway, but I had an emergency come up and I've got to go take care of this kid, I can notify the next person in line to come keep eyes on this hallway, because there's nothing that's more important than their safety. It doesn't matter all the best test scores, all the greatest achievements on the soccer field. It doesn't matter if we can't keep the children safe.
A recent controversy involved a village committee member posting hate speech on social media. Given that this person represents the village, how would you have handled the situation, especially considering the heightened concerns from the Muslim community around safety and rising hate rhetoric?
I think that we can draw that same parallel that we talked about with that student right out to every community member. So we talk about keeping a student safe, that's paramount, that nothing matters beyond that, because we can't have those great test scores and those great outcomes if they're not safe. Because when they're in a safe environment, they can grow, they can achieve their own personal greatness. That same concept needs to be applied to each of us as community members. So while I can't control what somebody might say, I can't control what somebody might post, what I can do is exemplify what you permit, you promote. So as a village leader, what I would have been listening for or looking for would have been acknowledging that my safety is just as important as their right to free speech, right? We're in America, we love that freedom of speech. We all rely on it, right? We also rely on knowing I can conduct myself in my business every day safely. I can get to school safely. I can exist in my job safely without being threatened. And hate speech is a threat. It creates a toxic environment that none of us can thrive in. So while I can't control what somebody says, what I can control is what we promote as an organization. What we promoted as a school district was that there's no room for violence. What we can promote as a village is there's no room for violence. We want to invite committee members who support and model that behavior. We want people to be a part of this organization that's going to grow with this thriving, diverse community, right? And those people on our committees who serve in our different volunteer organizations, we want them to have that same attitude of safety, that same attitude of equity, that same attitude of support, because when we have that attitude together, that's when we can see the evidence growing together, the action growing, and the outcomes growing for all community members.
When community members approached the village board last year in support of a ceasefire resolution concerning the ongoing conflict that has resulted in widespread civilian casualties, including family members of our own community, how would you respond? As village president, what stance would you take on this issue and what actions, if any, would you support?
It's important that we're all educated on the issues that our community faces, whether they're happening here in our hometown or they're happening elsewhere. If it impacts a member of our community, we need to be educated and understand that and do that in a way that's supportive. While we may not be able to have our own individual action impact that outcome, what I believe is that the work we do here in our local community is what grows up to the state level and then grows up to the federal level. So what I mean by that is the policies that we create, the laws that we enact, the people that we elect for our local government, our municipal government, our state level government, the people at the federal level stand on the shoulders of that, right? So it's important that we stand for that same work here in the local capacity. So the laws, the policies, the people we elect, if we want to promote that attitude of peace, if we want to promote peace in general and a ceasefire, we have to start here in our hometowns. It has to begin with us.
Thank you, Rebecca, for answering these questions.
Thank you again for giving me some space and time. It's so critical that we can continue these conversations. If you have any questions, if you'd like more information from me, please reach out. I am open, accessible. You can reach me on my website, voterebeccajanelli.com. I'm also active on Facebook. And I'd love to hear from you. What are the concerns that you have? What are the questions that you have? I know that together we can bring change to our community that deserves it. Our students, our children, our families, our seniors, our working class community deserves to have the greatness and the identity of who we truly are, not the dysfunction that we have become. Thank you so much.